Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 7th, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was a good day. I was a bit tired. That was the motif of the day, a bit of the uphill for me on this. Was it Wednesday? Hump day? Happy hump day. Yes, yes. I don't know. I only got maybe like 4 hours of sleep tops, which isn't unusual, but I think it's just the combination of going to bed later than I should and then waking up earlier than I wanted to. They really just kind of set my day off on a bad start. But overall, the day was good. Work was solid. I did get a little backed up, like towards like the beginning. I was just kind of like, ugh, I'm just not really feeling it. My back kind of hurts. So I had a good handle on the work at the top of the day, but I took like maybe 5-10 minutes and kind of pissed off a little bit, kind of like, hung out with maintenance a little, yapped a little. And then the day kind of spiraled away from me, at least in terms of like the, let's say, cardboard buggy control. But overall, we stayed on it enough. I just was like just so tired. And, despite getting my normal energy drink, getting back on a good foot, back on the good beat, I couldn't get the energy I really needed. And, I will say I had a wholesome food corner moment, a little snacky. My first break, I get my two little cups of coffee, and I wind up, especially because of the situation that we have with the construction still going on, I wind up sitting next to someone, and they go, "Oh, 2 cups of coffee, that's all you're getting? That's all you got?" And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And she proceeds to ask me, she goes, "Hey, do you want some of my tuna? Like, do you want some of my food?" And I was like, yeah, like, and y'all know me, if someone's gonna offer me some food, the answer is, of course, yes. And she pulls out she has like a bag, she has some bread, and she proceeds to make me like this impromptu tuna sandwich. And y'all, this was so good. It was so yummy. Like, it was a certain kind of tuna. I don't know, exactly how it was made. She was describing it to me as I was wolfing it down at like lightning speed, almost licking the table. But it was just so yummy. It had so much good shit in it. I was just like, I ate it, and I just found myself in like, oh my god, this is why I love food. So I had like, this is why I love food moment. It was nice. It was very wholesome. And gave me a little perk because I was definitely hungry. I think that was another reason too why I wound up taking 5, with maintenance, because I'm like, dude, I'm hungry, I'm tired, my back kind of hurts. I just don't feel that great. Ugh, kind of a little icky. But that, pet my spirit a little bit. But needless to say, I get through work, we slog through that, and I'm very tired. And I'm like, "Are you gonna go to the gym?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna go to the gym." So I go and I proceed to do not the hottest session. Overall, I get everything I wanted to done, but just not heavy reps in terms of like the amount of volume I think I really wanted to hit for the day. We just kind of got through it as I don't want to say as quick as I can, because I still did my 2 hours. I felt good about that at least. But just in a situation where your heart's just not in a thing, that's what it was. So bit of a bummer there. But I wind up getting home, do my little home workout, and I say, you know what? It's nap time. Every once in a while, I just have to do that. I have to take a nap and kind of just get a little bit of rest to get it back. And, of course, we'll get to the podcasting, which we are now currently. Yay. Hi. How's it going? So, yeah, I mean, that's been the day. Overall, it's been good. I will say a bit of an aside, just to let you know into my dark, twisted mind. No, just the weight day was also not weighing, if you will. It kind of sucks whenever I have those like weight fluctuations, and I'm just like, ugh. Also, I've had this issue with my usual, what I usually like to cook lately with the chicken and rice bowl. is the chicken thighs I got are huge. Like, they're huge, y'all. And y'all know how I just said, oh my God, I love eating. I love food. Food is so good. And it is. I genuinely feel that way. I think I always will. But in a weird way, I'm noticing how my relationship with food is changing. Because on the first night I opened them up, I look at these things. I'm like, they're huge. Like, I guess in the moment of buying them, I was just like, ugh, like, these aren't the exact chicken thighs I wanted, but I'm happy to get chicken thighs. Awesome. Love that. But they're big. They're big. Like, these are some big, like, these are like Chun-Li chickens or some shit. I don't know. But, like, overall, they're amazing. They're awesome. Like, they're very yummy. But I almost get, like, nauseous at the thought of them now. And I'm like, that's so strange. Like, that's something that me, a few months back would not have an issue with at all. But I find my head, I'm like, and I think it's really it's the weight issue, right? It's in my head. I know this is going to put more calories in me, and I don't like that. And I think it just bothers me a little bit. But overall, y'all know I'm broke. Y'all know I need to, eat my shit. So, I can't waste it, right? I can't be like, I don't want to eat it. It's too big. Like, what a crazy thing to say, right? So, overall, I'm enjoying my week. Everything is good. Everything is irie. But yeah, definitely a bit of a one of those snags. But I gotta give myself some grace, and I know that I'm showing up for it. I'm putting in the work in the kitchen, in the gym. So some weeks aren't gonna be the best week in terms of your fitness journey, your goals that you're trying to hit. But I think showing up and just doing the work is all you can do, right? That's it. Anyway, let's go ahead and do our startup and get into some news. This episode might just be longer because at least for a couple of these stories, I really want to try to lock them in, and we're gonna have to do some reading. But we'll cross those bridges when we get to them. It's startup time. Ooh. Alrighty. Our first story comes from the BBC News. Houthis say U.S. backed down and Israel not covered by ceasefire. A senior Houthi official has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's claim that the Yemeni armed group capitulated when agreeing a ceasefire deal, saying the U.S. backed down instead. What changed is the American position, but our position remains firm. Chief negotiator Mohammed Abdul Salam told Houthi-run Al Masira TV. Mediator Oman said the U.S. and Houthis had agreed to no longer target each other after 7 weeks of intensified U.S. strikes on Yemen in response to Houthi missile and drone attacks on international shipping in the Red Sea. Abdul Salam also said the deal did not include an end to attacks on Israel, which has conducted 2 rounds of retaliatory strikes on Yemen this week, which we already talked about, the Houthis launching a missile into Israel, and they hit an airport. So that is still an ongoing thing. They're saying, hey, our support with Palestine is still unwavering. It still has not changed. Our situation with Israel has not changed. We are simply not going to target the U.S. in the Red Sea, and we're going to, that's not going to be the focus. Let's see. Let's scroll ahead. Since November of 2023, the Houthis have targeted dozens of merchant vessels with missiles, drones, and small boat attacks in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. They have sunk 2 vessels, seized a third, and killed 4 crew members. And then, we've covered on the podcast since Trump has come into office, there's been an intensification of, strikes on Yemen. And of course, we covered Signalgate. Which, literally that was over Yemen in terms of Hegseth tweeting we're going to do the strike at this time, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be so effective and so good. We don't need any other app to do this. Anyway, no, I don't know. Let's see. But I mean, we'll see how long this holds. This is mainly why I wanted to bring this story up, is because it is a big deal that the Houthis aren't going to be doing as much strikes on. I mean, they're saying specifically the U.S., but maybe that does mean all shipping, in the Red Sea. I think I got the statistic earlier today, and I might be, interpreting it wrong or heard it wrong, but I think like 15% of shipping goes through that area. And it's obviously not just U.S. That affects so many people, so many, businesses and whatnot. So it's a big deal that these strikes have been happening. So, I mean, we'll see if this holds, though, because once again, they're saying, hey, nothing has changed in terms of how we feel about Israel, how we feel about the situation in Gaza. Until that changes, we're still going to have this hostility. It's still going to be at this clip. So it's not going to stop. Also, I've definitely covered stories where they do hit vessels in the Red Sea, and they go, well, sure, this is a U.S. ship, but it's owned by Israeli, corporations, or it has an Israeli-backed owner, whatever, so we feel justified in attacking it. So then we come full circle again, and, we're back to doing these strikes, ceasefire over. So I don't know how concrete this is, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But it definitely is relevant. It is a big change potentially in the future in terms of how the conflict is going to play out. But that being said, if it is still going to be Israel doing strikes on Yemen, the Houthis doing strikes back, I mean, is it really that different? Maybe not. We're just potentially taking out the Red Sea out of the equation. So wanted to start off with that. Let's move on, though, to our next story from USA Today. Ex-police officers found not guilty of murder in Tyree Nichols' beating death. Now, this is a story I think I just really want to read most of it. An out-of-town jury in the Tyree Nichols state case returned a not guilty verdict on all counts for 3 of the former Memphis police officers charged in his death. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith Jr. were charged with second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. After 8.5 hours of deliberation, the mostly white jury from Hamilton County found them not guilty of all charges, including lesser offenses they could have been convicted of. As the not guilty verdicts were read, some of Nichols' family members could be seen crying. The now acquitted officers were hugging with their attorneys, and the former officers' family members were crying after the jury had left. Hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. One could be heard shouting repeatedly in the hallway. The legal team representing Nichols' family said they were outraged. Today's verdicts are a devastating miscarriage of justice. Lawyers Ben Crump and Antonio Romanucci said in a release. The world watched as Tyree Nichols was beaten to death by those sworn to protect and serve. That brutal, inhumane assault was captured on video, yet the officers responsible were acquitted. Tyree's life was stolen, and his family was denied the justice they so deeply deserve. We are outraged, and we know we are not alone. 5 officers pepper sprayed, punched, and kicked Nichols, a 29-year-old father, skateboarder, and FedEx worker, during a 2023 traffic stop. Release of the video of the beating sparked protests and vigils across the nation and calls for change within the Memphis Police Department. During the trial, attorneys for Bean, Haley, and Smith said Nichols resisted arrest and was dangerous to the officers. They noted drugs and stolen credit cards were found in Nichols' car and said he could have had superhuman strength due to drug use. Prosecutors said the officers beat Nichols to death, pointing to his severe injuries, and tried to cover it up afterwards. Now, I want to just take a pause here. Literally, they beat the shit out of him. He was crying for his mother in the middle of the street. They then proceed to later on go to the mother and say, hey, do you know if he was on something? Because he was just like so strong. There's literally videos of them just tag teaming this guy, beating him to literal death. And he winds up dying in the hospital later from a traffic stop. So all the drugs and all this fucking stolen credit card shit that they want to fucking make a hullabaloo about, that has nothing to do with the traffic stop. At the end of the day, they beat him for running away. They beat him for fucking resisting arrest. I'm gonna put that in fucking quotations. For being hostile. They're like, oh, well, you're a threat to us now, so now we're gonna beat you to a fucking pulp. How dare you? How dare you? Let's get back to reading. Nichols' family did not speak after the trial, instead opting to leave the courthouse. Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy said the family was devastated after the verdict when prosecutors spoke with them. He went on to say that he and the rest of the prosecution team disagreed with the jury's verdict. We, in good faith, brought this case, and I'm convinced to this day that we had compelling evidence that showed there was proof for every element of every one of the offenses that we charged, Mulroy said in a press conference after the verdict. The jury took a different view. That is, of course, their right. Nichols was pulled over in the evening hours of January 7th. Oh, sorry. My computer is bugging on this article. In the evening hours of January 7th, 2023. Haley and another officer initially pulled him over and pulled him from his car. A struggle ensued with pepper spray being used and a taser being fired at Nichols as he ran from officers. It is unclear if the taser made contact with him. I love how that is an important, relevant fact, I suppose, but they literally, at some point, which we have on camera, them beating him to death with their fucking hands, with their fucking batons. Like, I don't care if they missed a shot with a taser or not. Another set of officers eventually caught up with Nichols, who was running towards his mother's house. He was less than 100 yards away when he was tackled. When more officers got to the scene, officers held Nichols' arms and hit him with a barrage of kicks, punches, baton strikes, and pepper spray. The assault lasted minutes and was captured on body cameras and a Skycop camera. When Nichols went limp, he was handcuffed and leaned against an unmarked squad car. More than 20 minutes passed before he is put on a stretcher and taken to the hospital. All three former officers were convicted in federal court and faced time in federal prison. Sentencing for the federal case was postponed until the state case reached an end. Bean and Smith were acquitted of civil rights violations, but found guilty of witness tampering and face up to 20 years in federal prison. Now, I'm pretty sure we have covered parts of this. It's part of the reason why I'm kind of trying to be as detailed as I can, because I don't like fucking stories up in general, but specifically, things like this. Haley was found guilty on all counts, using excessive force, being deliberately indifferent to Nichols' medical needs, witness tampering, and conspiracy to witness tamper. But that jury found that when Haley violated Nichols' civil rights, it resulted in injury, not death. Haley could serve a life sentence in federal prison, which I fucking hope he does. Two other former officers, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., took a plea deal and pleaded guilty in the federal case to using excessive force and conspiracy to witness tamper. Mills' plea agreement extended to the state case, and he will serve both his federal and state sentences at the same time. Martin and Mills testified during the federal trial. Mills testified during the state trial. Mulroy, when asked what the message this verdict gives to police in Memphis, said the guilty verdicts in the federal court provided some consequences for their actions. He did, however, say that this verdict shows the need for reform. If we're going to have any silver lining from this dark cloud of both the event itself and, in my view, today's verdict, it has to be that we need to reaffirm our commitment to police reform and to doing what we need to do to make sure that these tragedies like this don't happen again, he said. So yeah, so closes this part of the story for Nichols and these fucking officers who decided to just torture and execute this guy in the middle of the street. I mean, y'all know how I feel about this shit. I've, cried over this shit. I've raged over this shit. To see another verdict like this is upsetting. It is. And like the family, you just go, like, well, what does it take? What do you need to see to go, this was wrong? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what kind of legal lenses you want to put this in to make that make sense, but it just won't to me. So, I don't know. It's so hard to square. It's very frustrating. But it's a system at play, and not just a system. This was a jury, 8.5 hours. Like that's not like, I mean, that's a good chunk of time for sure. But I mean, I've heard cases that were just as much of a slam dunk or less, and they still go longer. I don't know. It's just, it boggles me. It upsets me. It infuriates me, honestly. But what can you do? You hope to find justice where you can in this life, and when you can't, you just gotta pick yourself up and say that's just how this goes, and you keep it moving, you keep it pushing. But yeah, I know I'll keep you posted on any more that comes out of this case as a whole. Any sentencing and stuff like that. So. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to get that in. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story. This story is also pretty fucked up, pretty grim. If there was going to be some trigger warnings, it would definitely, before I should have used them, you would use them now. But I don't know. I don't do that shit anymore. Or at least I don't do it as much as I probably should. But it is what it is. From ABC News. FBI has opened 250 investigations tied to violent online network 764 that preys on teens, top official says. FBI officials say they are growing increasingly concerned about a loose network of violent predators who befriend teenagers through popular online platforms and then coerce them into escalating sexual and violent behavior, pushing victims to create graphic pornography, harm family, pets, cut themselves with sharp objects, or even die by suicide. Online predators, part of the network known as 764, demand victims send them photos and videos of it all, so the shocking content can be shared with fellow 764 followers or used to extort victims for more. Some of the predators even host watch parties for others to watch them torment victims live online, according to the authorities. We see a lot of bad things, but this is one of the most disturbing things we're seeing, said FBI Assistant Director David Scott, the head of the FBI's Counterterrorism Division, which is now leading many of the U.S. government's investigations tied to 764. The FBI has more than 250 such investigations currently underway, with every single one of its 55 field offices across the country handling a 764 related case, Scott told ABC News in an exclusive interview. He said the FBI has seen some victims as young as 9, and federal authorities have indicated there could be thousands of victims around the world. So yeah, they target very young children. They said the average ages are around 10 to 17. But I mean, these are very moldable, very malleable people, young kids. And you are coercing them into this behavior, and then you're looping them almost into like this doom loop. And I guess the overall goal for them is chaos. They want to sow chaos. They want to sow government unrest, and this is how they go about doing it. And it seems like it comes from all swirls and types of people kind of coming together and meeting up on Discord or, just in a very online fashion. The word nihilism gets thrown around a lot. Also, they sprinkle in a little bit of Satanism. Though I've heard that used, not so much in this article, but like when I was listening to this on ABC Start Here. I think that's an element. I don't think it's a main thing. I know that whenever that kind of gets brought up, it's so easy to kind of go to like the satanic panic route and go, oh, it's about that. It's all about that. It's like, no, I think this is just, once again, it's an all stripes thing of these evil fucking people coming together and saying, oh yeah, we just want to make the world crazier. Yeah. And it's like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, this is what they want to do. This is how they want to go about it. And in my head, I wanted to make this jump, and I don't know if this is necessarily actually like point to point, but like it reminded me a bit of the Zizians. Though we're not doing rationale or whatever, but we are getting to this point where the ethos, the logic here is that what we are doing is more important than anything else. And if you are against us, then you can die. You don't matter. Whereas specifically with this cult, with this group, I guess you should say, is they want to make things as fucked up as possible. They want to, like, once again, sow chaos And I think they just have these dark desires that they are unleashing on these kids. And they're like, yeah, and we get to watch and record. It's sick. It's just disgusting, disturbing fucking behavior. And there's this added element of like the technology at play where they're meeting on Discord servers to talk about it and share their exploits and stuff like that. So just really taking a lot of things that we've seen and individual elements. It's like, okay, this person is doing this, or maybe like you have some like international group or something and they're running some kind of scam on kids, and it's like, hey, we're looping them, we're getting like nudes or something like that, and we're using it against them. But there's like a money play there, right? Like there's an incentive to enrich yourself, and that's why you're doing this fucked up thing to kids. And it's like, okay, that's fucked up, you're bad for that. But there's like, no. This is the sole premise of we just want to be chaotic. We want to do this evil thing because we can do it. And it's like, whoa, fuck. Like that's, chilling shit. So anyway, let's continue. It's very scary and frightening. The Connecticut the Connecticut mother of a teen girl caught up in 764 told ABC News. It was very difficult to process because we didn't raise her to engage in that kind of activity, said the mother, speaking on the condition that ABC News not name her or her daughter. Last year, in the classic New England town of Vernon, Connecticut, local police arrested the girl, a former honor roll student, for conspiring with a 764 devotee overseas to direct bomb threats at her own community. When police searched her devices, they found pornographic photos of her, photos depicting self-mutilation, and photos of her paying homage to 764. As Scott described it, one of the main goals of 764 and similar networks is to sow chaos and bring down society. It's also worth noting, which they are going to get into in this article, is that like 764, or I don't know if I should call them 764. I'm saying 764, whatever. They aren't the first of their kind, sadly. But I think they're just the first that's this big and this notable, I guess, in this age. And I think it's just one of those things where they're taking the center stage here for the FBI because it's like, yes, we see that this is this big and we need to do something about it. But it seems like something like this has kind of been growing and growing and growing, a bit fringe, and then it's just kind of like almost like a digital tumbleweed of sorts, or snowball, kind of just becomes this bigger organization, which, once again, very creepy that's just how this can kind of work. That's why the FBI's counterterrorism division and the Justice Department's National Security Division are now looking at 764 and its offshoots as a potential form of domestic terrorism, even coining a new term to characterize the most heinous actors, nihilistic violent extremists. Which, what a group, what a phrasing. The more gore, the more violence that raises their stature within the groups, Scott said. So it's sort of a badge of honor within some of these groups to actually do the most harm to victims. According to an ABC News review of cases across the country over the past few years, state and federal authorities have arrested at least 15 people on child pornography or weapons-related charges and accused them in court of being associated with 764. One of those federal cases, a 24-year-old Arkansas man, Jaro Tinajero, plotted to murder a 14-year-old girl who started resisting his demands. When he pleaded guilty to conspiracy and child pornography charges 3 months ago, Tanjiro said he believed the murder would raise his stature within the 764 network. His sentencing is set for August. In another federal case, 19-year-old Jack Rocker of Tampa amassed a collection of more than 8,300 videos and images that the Justice Department called some of the most horrific evil content available on the internet. He pleaded guilty in January to possessing child sexual abuse material and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. While amassing his collection, Rocker organized his digital content into folders with titles such as 764 and KKK Racist. Another folder called Trophies contained photos of victims who carved his online monikers into their bodies, a form of self-mutilation known as fan signing. Oh my God. Saying that out loud is so fucked, dude. Why? Like, why? How are like you coming up with this shit? He also had a folder titled ISIS, referring to the international terrorist organization that produced barbaric beheading videos. Followers of 764 Network share all sorts of violent content with their victims, while some also glorify past mass casualty attacks, such as the 1999 Columbine High School shooting, or introduce victims to other extreme ideologies like neo-Nazism or Satanism, according to authorities. So this is where the Satanism comes in. Once again, it just feel like this is just a mix. It's almost like this is, and maybe a good chunk of my audience might not know what the fuck I'm talking about here. Maybe a good chunk, they totally might. They're like old 4chan users, but they're not old. They're like young kids. Like there's a span. I say young kids, but like there's a span. They're younger than I am, a 34-year-old, right? So it's just like they're coming into this shit, but they don't have Live Leak. They just have what they have, and they can just search whatever the fuck they want on the internet, and they can find it, and they catalog it, and they're like, oh, okay, now I have this folder of gore, I have this folder of fucked up shit, but I have no one to really share it with or talk to. Like, whenever I probably try to do this, I might get banned or reported, whatever. And they find these havens, these spaces to do it, and then they just like unload on each other, I guess, and they're just blah 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 blahing. And then you have this added element with these kind of groups and these kind of people where they're encouraging each other to do more, to escalate, to make it real. And it's just like, oh my god, like it's crazy. I really do think my dumb delusional ass, as I was growing up through my 20s, I thought society was moving away from this kind of shit, not further ensconcing itself, not digging deeper with shovels in their bare hands to try to do and get more of this and make more of this. It's just so fucked, dude. But wait, there's more. Just 2 weeks ago, the Justice Department announced the arrest of a 20-year-old North Carolina man, Parsan Nepal, for allegedly operating an elite online club dedicating to promoting 764, extorting young victims, and producing horrific content. He is yet to be arraigned. In charging documents, the Justice Department said Nepal helped launch 764 with its Texas-based founder more than 4 years ago. Though charging documents don't identify the founder by name, federal law enforcement sources identified him to ABC News as Bradley Cadenhead, who is serving an 80-year prison sentence, in Texas after pleading guilty to several child pornography-related charges in 2023. According to court documents, Cadenhead launched his new online community on the social platform Discord and called it 764 because at the time when he was 15, he lived in Stephenville, Texas, where the zip code begins with the numbers 764. So I think that's why I say 764, because of the area code thing. I know, like I say, like 513 or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's just that. But since the launch of the initial 764 group, which garnered a couple of hundred Discord followers, 764 has become a global movement with an array of offshoots and subgroups that often rebrand and change their names to help keep social media companies and law enforcement from tracking them. The original 764 was an offshoot of previous extremist and gore-focused groups online. Let's see here. Yeah, we gotta keep going to the abyss. Think of this less as a group and think of it more as an ideology. Vernon Police Detective Tommy Van Tassel said of 764 and similar networks. It doesn't matter what they're called. There are a lot of actors out there encouraging this type of behavior. So it's everywhere. It's in every community. Indeed, the young Connecticut girl that Van Tassel would eventually investigate was sucked into 764 by a man overseas. Reflecting what her family described as a typical 764 related encounter, the girl met him on a popular online gaming platform, Roblox, y'all. This shit for this particular person started on Roblox. And then they began communicating more regularly online, including on Discord, which caters to gamers. Now, I guess I should make a quick aside on what Roblox is, which is hard for me because I've never really fucked with it, but it's essentially like an online thing where you can kind of game, it's supposed to be like a kid-friendly space. You can game. There's so many things that you can do on it. They have like these like almost like forum style kind of things. And also, I guess it's kind of akin to like a Minecraft experience. Man, this is making me feel old just talking about this shit. I was talking to my coworker about Minecraft and how I just can't relate to it. I just don't have the touchstones for it. Every time I try, I'm like, what is this? What does this mean? What are they doing? They're doing Forge mode. I don't get it. But Roblox is kind of like that. I feel like that's how I try to make the comparison. But sadly, I've heard Roblox used for scams, for cons, like all kinds of grifts, and sadly, this kind of shit here. The exploitation of children. So it's like, god damn, dude. So this group running around on Roblox just gives me the whole body shudder. Like, yikes. But then they, from Roblox, they began communicating more regularly online, including on Discord, which caters to gamers. The man convinced her he was her boyfriend, and she sent him sexual photos of herself. The types of images that 764 adherents threaten to share widely if victims don't comply with their escalating demands. Let me actually read this photo headline because it's actually the photo I used in the, the thumbnail. An undated photo found by Vernon, Connecticut police on the devices of a 17-year-old girl associated with the online network 764 shows a Barbie doll marked with 764. Like, well, I don't know why you tell a person to do that shit. And then worse stuff. Like, it's just because you can show it to a group of people in a tranche of just fucked up shit online on your Discord with your fucked up evil mates. Oh, yeah, dude. Let's see. I'm gonna skip. Scott said it's common to have victims who have become subjects by perpetrating acts on behalf of the individual who victimized them. According to her family, the Connecticut girl was trained to hack into Roblox accounts and lock them, which allowed her to make demands of account owners if they wanted their accounts back. And she allegedly helped direct a series of threats that rattled Vernon area schools for 3 months in late 2023 and early last year. I've placed 2 explosives in front of Rockville High School, and if they fail to detonate, I'm going to walk into there and I'm just going to shoot every kid I see. A male with a British accent claimed during a call to Vernon police in late 2024. Those threats led Van Tassel to the girl whose mother spoke with the ABC News. The girl was arrested on conspiracy-related charges and referred to juvenile court. But even before her arrest, she had started to resist some of the demands that were being directed at her. As a result, her family's home was bombarded by incidents of so-called swatting, when false reports of crimes or violence try to induce SWAT teams to respond to a location in an effort to intimidate targets there. And sometimes it's not just intimidation. Sometimes they will angle the call to come off as hostile as possible, knowing how law enforcement can be in these kind of fucking high intensity, high stress situations where they have to make those quote unquote split second decisions, and they just kill someone. They kill a whole family. I'm sure a group like this would not mind seeing that fucking happen. Let's see. Scott said swatting is a common tactic used by adherents of 764 and similar networks when they don't get compliance. The man at the heart of the Connecticut girls' ordeal is still under investigation by authorities. So that dude's still at large. Now, they do proceed to kind of be on the lookout kind of thing. I'm not really going to go through that. I'm just going to skim past. It's kind of a bit vague. They're like, hey, if your kid's wearing long sleeves in the heat, maybe you should talk to them. If your kid's being a bit more antisocial than usual, maybe you should talk to them. And there's preceding examples that I've heard from other outlets or whatever. Obviously I'm not a parent, so I can't really squeak to this kind of shit for sure in details. But yes, if your kid is acting maybe a bit abnormally, it's not bad to have these kind of conversations. Be open, ask, for that kind of communication. I'm sure that those things are good, but I also would stress, don't do the thing that I mentioned kind of with the Satanism line of like taking the panic route. Oh man, my kid's acting a little bit different, and I just read this shit, or I just heard this shit about the 764 group. Maybe they're about to be a part of this fucking, whole thing, and they're about to paint the Barbie black with a Sharpie mark. No, don't do that. Don't jump to these conclusions. I don't think that that's the right call. Granted, I'm not a parent, so I mean, hey, this isn't any kind of sound advice, whatever. But definitely having more conversations with your kid, I think it's probably got to be the way, right? It's got to be the best line to take here. And really just reminding your kid, or maybe not even so much your kid, but just anyone like that you think maybe might not be too hip to this shit in terms of just how the online can be. It's like, hey, be careful out there. You know what I'm saying? Just be aware, because you never know who's on the other end of a screen, So be safe out there, y'all. Look after each other. And yeah, I hope I see less of this shit, man. I just learned about this shit. I was seeing a couple of headlines here and there, and I was like, what is this group? What is this mass international group that I keep seeing these headlines about? And then finally today, a story dropped that I got to listen to, and then I finally started reading about them. And I'm like, God damn. And I mean, shit, my mom even sent me a story that's unrelated, but just of like some fucked up shit, like, just an alleged like sex offender thing that's going on, I believe in Missouri. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's fucked. But I'm literally about to cover this shit right now about a whole group of these motherfuckers. I'm like, God damn, the world. It's just so gross. It's just so gross. So, I mean, we're in the abyss. We're in the whirlpool. It's all black. It's okay. That was the last heavy thing I wanted to cover. I know I've taken up a lot of time, so we're gonna take our last break. I gotta get some water. I gotta fucking have a think, have a decompress. Please take one with me if you'd like, and we'll cover something that's a bit of a U.S. goof 'em up, if you will, a little oops-a-daisy on the USS Harry S. Truman, whatever. All right, let's take some break. Let's get some air. I knew with those two stories, if I just riffed, I wouldn't do them justice. And it felt very important to talk about them. Not to say that the other stuff that I cover isn't as important. Obviously I want to get the shit as right as I can. But, heavy shit. That shit had me feeling like I'm on a True Detective episode. What the fuck? Anyway. Whew. From CNN. Second U.S. Navy jet is lost at sea from Truman aircraft carrier. Another FA-18 Super Hornet fighter jet from the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier has been lost in the Red Sea. The second jet lost from the carrier in just over a week. 5 people familiar with the matter told CNN. It's not entirely clear what happened yet, as the investigation is ongoing, but 2 of the people said there was some kind of arrestment failure as the jet was trying to land on the carrier, and the pilot and weapon systems officer had to eject. They were recovered by a rescue helicopter, and both are alive, but they suffered minor injuries, one of the people said. So that's good. Silver lining that no one was hurt. Excuse me. In the other story that I heard last week that I didn't cover, this had happened before. Like I believe a whole jet like kind of fell off to some extent, And I was like, God damn, like that's definitely a funny little fuck 'em up. I mean, once again, I don't believe anyone was hurt that badly or hurt at all in that situation, so that's good. But I just I couldn't get to the first one because I just was busy. There's been a lot of news, obviously, so I just didn't get to it. So when I saw that this happened again, like back to back, I was like, okay, all right, we gotta lump them in. Sorry, US. I gotta, I had to hit you with the Benny Hill, right? Is that Benny Hill? Anyway, let's see. The loss of the fighter jet comes 1 week after another FA-18 jet fell overboard the Truman. That time, initial reports indicated the Truman made a hard turn to evade Houthi fire, which contributed to the fighter jet falling overboard. So I guess there's a little bit of political intrigue here, whatever. Well, hey, we got a ceasefire for that, right? So everything's all good. There you go. We're tying it back. It's a full circle. An individual FA-18 fighter jet costs more than $60 million, according to the Navy. So every time one of these things fucking fall over or they miss a landing or whatever, that's taxpayer dollars just kerplunk, sunk, done. So we obviously hate to see that. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's where I will close it out for today. I know it's a bit of a odd episode, a deep episode, upsetting topics for sure. But so it goes on the newsstand. Sometimes you just got to get into the thick of it, and it's icky and it's gross. And I don't want to necessarily say we come out better, but we do come out with some knowledge and perspective. Hopefully maybe a little bit of levity along the way. Hopefully we had some time to decompress. We took our breaks. There we go. Anyway, that's going to be the episode for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Free action. It really helps out. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcast or whatever listening platform you prefer. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Sharing is caring. But overall, I really just appreciate you listening. Really appreciate you tuning in. So, hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.